Hey guys, this is Andy with Get Your Wellies. Welcome to the garden. As you can see, shade cloths on up here, so that means it's time to start planting some things underneath. So that's going to be tomatoes. So join me in the garden as I do that. But first of all, why don't you get your wellies? Meet me in the garden. Okay guys, so here are my tomato plants. We've got Cherokee Purple, Brad's Atomic Grape, and those are my indeterminates. Determinate varieties, I have the Black Seaman and I have the Nebraska Wedding. So those are what we're going to plant today. Now, as I indicated on the last video, I believe it was, these buckets have been replenished with a new mix. This mix is shown on the end card, so if you watch the video all the way through, you can click on that link on how to make this mix here. Each year you can top that off with some of your homemade compost or a little potting soil. Sometimes they just need a whole revamp. So I'm going to just plant a couple of these tomatoes just to show you how I do it. Okay guys, so before I start digging holes in here, let me show you what I add. I'm going to dig my hole. I'm going to put my tomato in. But first, I'm going to put in that hole some blood meal. This is a source of nitrogen. Of course, this is made from animals, the blood of animals, so it is organic. This is bone meal, same thing. The bones are steamed and then ground up, and this is a good source of phosphorus and calcium. So I'm going to add, literally, I just like grab a handful and toss it down in each hole. I'll show you that. Okay, so on this first row, I'm going to plant these Nebraska Wedding. Now these are a determinate variety. That means they have a definitive lifestyle and a definitive amount of fruit. These are typically considered bush types, although a little support for them is a good thing. You can take these lower leaves off, and I think we will, just so we can plant this a little bit deeper. As with indeterminates, anywhere along the stem, new roots will come out. Now, aside from that, as the plant gets bigger, I may snip off some lower leaves just to prevent the splashing up of rainwater onto the plant and potentially adding soil bacteria to the leaves, which we obviously don't want any of that. So other than that, I am not going to prune a determinate variety at all, because everywhere this plant is supposed to produce fruit, if you take that off, it just won't. It's not like it's going to keep growing new branches and make up for that. It won't. It has literally a determinate amount of fruit that you're going to get. So I would recommend not pruning. I'm putting this on the outer row of the canopy here because they won't grow as tall. So there'll be more room on the edge than in the middle. The canopy's higher in the middle, so I'll put the indeterminate varieties there. So anyway, let's get to planting this tomato and show you how that's done. So what I'm going to do is just dig a hole roughly in the middle of this bucket. Now these are part of the rain gutter grow system, so these actually sit, in this case it sits in a 4-inch PVC pipe, and water is directed to that. So because of the wicking properties of the soil, it actually keeps this soil pretty moist. Not soggy, but sort of moist. Now when it rains, sometimes to me it's a little bit soggy, but it's not ever terrible. Okay, so there's our hole. Let's throw in a handful. And I told you I just kind of reach in that bag and get me a fistful like that and just literally throw it in the hole. Same with the bone meal. Throw some of that in there. Now, Something that does come up a little bit with growing tomatoes, handful of that, there we go. Growing tomatoes, there is a thing that you may see on your tomatoes called blossom end rot. And what happens is the blossom end of your tomato will literally rot. And most people attribute that to lack of calcium, and that may be true. Now, obviously we've added some calcium here. I'm not opposed to doing that, but really and truly, I'm going to fill in the bottom of this hole just a little bit, because this is fairly shallow here. Let's get our plant out. Just kind of gently ease him out. There we go. Pretty nice roots, not too pot bound there. So pop him in there, pull your soil around, and that is a really pretty little seedling, actually. Really pretty. So anyway, the calcium in the soil is generally not an issue. It's really actually kind of hard to find soil so far, to me, that doesn't have enough calcium in it. The bigger issue may be the uptake of that calcium. So adding magnesium helps. Now, some people would go ahead and throw in a handful of Epsom salts, which is just magnesium, at the time of planting, like just now. I don't do that, primarily because magnesium is very water soluble. Epsom salts especially are very water soluble, so it's literally first rain, it's going to leach out within a day or two. So I'll watch. If it looks like I'm having blossom end problems, I will add some magnesium in liquid form when I start seeing that. Now, if you're going to see it and it's normal, sort of a normal development of the plant, you'll see it in the earliest fruit. Once it starts really setting, that problem typically goes away. But it won't hurt anything to add some Epsom salt. So later in the season, I may get to show you that. We'll see. So let me find a cage for this one. Yeah, sorry about my messy garden here. So I use a cage, not because determinants necessarily need that, but in my opinion, it's a couple things. I actually think it looks kind of attractive to have something around your plants, and the little bit of support they do need, that cage will offer them that. So this plant's probably going to grow, 4, maybe 5 foot. It'll get close to the top of this. Let me see if I can show you here. It'll get close to the top of the canopy, which is up here. It will grow fairly tall, but not as tall as the indeterminates grow. Now, to me, one of the hardest things about growing tomatoes, there's so many really cool looking varieties out there that your temptation is to just come along and put one in each bucket. Well, you're just going to end up with a hedge of vines all over the place. So I've tried to resist that temptation. So this next bucket here, I will probably put basil in that, and I'm also going to come back and mulch these with straw. That's my preference. It's cheap, it's pretty easy. You might get a little grass growing, but not that big of a deal. But it definitely helps keep the moisture content in the soil, so the plants will do well. Mulch is a real important part of your garden, and when you're growing in a bucket, you really don't want that soil to be getting crazy hot either, so it does help cool the surface of the soil. So moving over next door but one over here, let's put in another tomato just to show you again how I do it. So there's about a good size hole. Let me get another plant. Here's another one of our Nebraska weddings. Let's get him out of there. Ready? Okay. Alright. Handful of bone meal. One of those. This stuff kind of smells, so I feel like I always see more flies around me when I've got that out, so seal it up, it's good. And get our bone meal, handful of that, seal that bag up. Okay, let's put our plant down in here, pull the soil in around. Okay, a big chunk of something in there. All right. All right, and I'll come back and straw mulch these, get them a good watering, get them happy in their new home. Let me grab another cage. All right, we'll set that on there. Okay, so there's two. I won't labor that point anymore. You get the idea how to do that. But those are set up. I'm going to do one more on this side, and then we'll do some of the other ones. But I'll show you what that looks like when it's all finished. And here's the tomatoes looking happy in their row. So guys, thanks for joining me in the garden. Just a real quick look at tomatoes and how we get those started. Of course, we'll see them in future videos as the season progresses. If there's any pests or diseases, we'll deal with that, and hopefully, of course, we'll get some fruit before too long. This hot weather's starting. These afternoons are getting pretty warm, up in the high 70s and low 80s now, so definitely tomato weather. So guys, thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you all again and get your wellies. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. So until I see you next time, bye now.